Bonsall, Mr. Clark, Mr. Braden. Leslie Stevenson has let us know that she could not be here today just due to a pre-scheduled work meeting, so she won't be at the council meeting either. So that was all pre-scheduled, but she'll be watching the recording and I'm sure commenting then. So we've got 3 items on the agenda today. First one is just public comments. Second one is city finances, and third one is the capital improvement plan. So we'll just start off with the first one. So is there anybody here that'd like to address Finance Committee? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the city finance one. So for this one, there's a couple of items from the auditor that we need to address. We'll go through the revenue report for the city so far this year and basically kind of just look at where we are for each line item. I'm trying to get the auditor stuff here. And then we will look at the expenses as well. So we'll be looking at the expense account current year only report to just kind of see where we are when it comes to expenditures for some of our bigger keys and some key items. Is there any kind of questions on that or any other items that we want to come up with?
Not at this time, no.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, excellent. So, awesome. Okay, so the city finances. So we'll go ahead and go through the revenue report first. So the revenue report is going to be the bigger report that's stapled. And so essentially, like I said, we'll just kind of go through this on some of the key items, and I'll make a note of certain items. Let me grab Okay. So the first item is earnings tax. I want to look at. So this report's as of the end of September. So for earnings tax, we year to date we've got 1.38 million in earnings tax revenue. So remember that 13.8 million in earnings tax revenue. So remember that this does not include the Fund 89 revenue that we get. So Fund 89 is the fund that we do our earnings tax agreements that we have with Paycor, Construct Connect, Tri-Health, and CDK Global. So all 3 of those get a percentage of their earnings, the earnings taxes that are paid and refunded back to them the next year. So all that money goes into Fund 89 so that it's able to be segmented and we're able to ensure that we can pay them even when there may not be as much money in the general fund. So it's 13.8 million. I talked to the city treasurer today and kind of got just heard what their kind of estimates were. So when they do their earnings tax, they actually count Fund 89 in it. So we're not going to match when it comes to the total amount that's coming into the city because we've signed agreements with these companies that they would have never come here before. So from a council perspective and from the way the auditor does it, essentially, that money's already out of the city, essentially, before it ever shows up on our normal revenue report. It shows up as revenue in Fund 89, not in the general fund. The way that the treasurer does it is he looks at the overall earnings tax revenue coming in. So the numbers that I'm going to be talking about are going to be the treasurer's numbers. They won't necessarily match here, but the state, everybody knows that they don't always match, so it's not a big deal. So as of 9/30, we were $684,000 ahead of projection for this year. So in the first quarter, we were right on. The second quarter, we were up 7.2%. In the third quarter, we were up 6.9%. So, depending on the estimate this year for where we thought we would be $18.6 million for total earnings tax revenue for the whole city. That was less than last year, because last year, if you all might recall, we got in some one-time earnings or revenue that when it comes to, there were some tax changes and stuff, so there was a particular company in town that paid out some bigger bonuses at the very end of last year, and so that also meant that we got a little bonus on the earnings tax. So that's not going to happen every year. So the revenue is, like I said, we're up above projections. I think it's up around 5%, so that's all good news. We'll have to see what happens in Q4 to see if that's going to kind of stay. So we'll keep an eye on it, but overall earnings tax, there's no concern there at the moment. Okay. The next item that we'll look at is birth and death records. So it's the 01-000-48-230. So that is essentially we get funds in for issuing birth certificates. So the state of Ohio, to help fund health departments, one of the things they do is to allow health departments to be the ones that issues the birth and death certificates, and so that's a revenue generator for us. Right now we're at $52,000. I think we expected $48,000, but we're already at $52,000, so we're already above where we thought we would be before, and that doesn't even count the last 3 months of the year. So that's pretty exciting there. You'll see food service licenses, so that's 8240. We expect to get 72,000. We're at nearly 80,000, so we're up like 6,700. I think the food service licenses, though, they're basically where they are going to be for the year. So I don't think they'd have a whole lot of new ones that get issued, but just know that those are up. So building permits are down from last year, or they're way down from last year, but they're down from the projected. So we were projected to have $340,000 in revenue from building permits. Year to date, we're at $233,000. Last month was a big month. We had $55,000 last month, but it's still, so let's see here, 55,000 divided by, so last month was almost a quarter of our building fee revenue so far for the year. So we're a little lower there. I mean, last year it was like almost 600,000, but that was because we had permits from the Health United building going up at Xavier. So basically you pay your building permits on the front end, and so we're still doing work there, but the those fees were paid last year. Okay. So if we look at the next page, it's 48,378 hotel lodging tax, excise tax. So already, and this is just the end of Q3, we're estimated to get $233,000. We're at $246,000. So we're already above the estimate that we thought we were going to have on hotel tax. And it's just, like I said, we still have another quarter to go. Now, I don't know exactly when they pay their hotel taxes, or like maybe they pay them twice. I'm not exactly sure, but it's likely that that's still a really good number compared to where we thought we'd be.
James, can you clarify where you're at? 30. You say.
Oh, sorry. This is page 2, and then if you look at the numbers, the account number.
Sure.
It's 01000, and it's 48378.
378. 378.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hotel
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Yep,
I'm with you now.
Interrupt me anytime.
Continue.
Yeah, I'll actually go up to look at property tax. So property tax, our expected revenue was 2.71 million. Excuse me. Yeah, 2.71 million, and we actually received 2.60 million. So we're a little bit down on property taxes, and I don't think that we're going to get much more from that throughout the year. I don't think actually we'll get any more. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So so that kind of does it for intergovernmental revenue. On the next line, we'll stop at the EMS services. So that's 48534. So basically we do a billing system for EMS services. If you have to go get taken by ambulance, they'll bill your insurance to try to get them to pay. But if your insurance doesn't pay, they don't go and then bill the resident for those services. In my opinion, they probably should be billing like non-residents for the services, even if the insurance doesn't pay.
Can you repeat that?
So we bill for EMS services, right? Like, so we basically, if you have health insurance, what they'll do is they'll send like a $500, $700 bill basically to transport, if you get transported to the hospital.
Sure.
And fire departments all around the state do this. If your insurance company doesn't pay it, like, so some insurance company will just reject that, then they're not going to go after the resident to pay it. They just won't get it paid. So that's where so basically we get around $500,000 a year from that. So they're right on target. Year-to-date revenue from that's $397,000. So that's 78% of 78% of the yearly point that we thought we were going to be at. So essentially, they're on target. So they're doing well from that standpoint. Okay, so we'll look at some of the recreation ones. Swim passes this year were higher than expected. We anticipate 15,000. We actually brought in 15,577. So that's just a little bit higher.
Perfect.
Let's see here. Park rental. So we're at 5,000 is what we expected there. We actually have year-to-date revenue of 6,102. I think that is for pool rental and for other items. Yeah. And then concessions was higher than expected. 6,700 was what we expected. 8,570 is where we're at there. Okay.
Good news. All good news.
Yeah, very good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at fines and forfeitures, that's the next one here. We're on page 3 now. Traffic fines, we were expected to have 155,000 in revenue. Year-to-date revenue is 151,000. So essentially, we're already at 98% of the yearly expected revenue. So I think we should be very thankful for our police officers, working on trying to keep us safe out there. It's really good to see, because it is important to have those traffic fines, because mayor's court costs money to run mayor's court, and we have a clerk of courts down there. We've got other things, and it's convenient. It's a convenience for our residents, so they can just come here to mayor's court instead of having to go down to the county to go to mayor's court. Awesome. So, yep, that's good news there. Let's see here under miscellaneous revenue. Interest earned, we'll kind of highlight there. So we were expecting $134,000 in interest earned, and this is where the treasurer goes and reinvests our money with the Star Ohio account. Our year-to-date revenue is $131,000, so we're at 98% already in interest earned. So that's really great news. That's like easy money that's really helpful to have. So especially in a higher interest rate environment that we're in right now. Not all the time. Sometimes it's lower interest rates, so we don't get as much, but that's definitely a good thing. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go down to our street fund. So street fund is going to be on page 4. It's the ones that start out with 02 on the front of the account. Okay, so we'll look at going down to gasoline excise tax. So we are expecting just in the 505,000 this year. Our year-to-date revenue is 395. Let me see if we're seeing any benefit. 892 divided by 395. Okay, so we are starting to see. So basically, this last month we received $67,000 from the excise tax. It looks like we are starting to see a benefit from the 10-cent increase in our gas taxes that we're all paying at the pump, whether we realize it or not. And so, long story short, is that our basically the money that we're getting in from that, it's going up from where it was because of the gas tax increase. So we should be normally we get about $600,000 or so in revenue to the street fund each year. It's anticipated that we'll be closer to $900,000 because of the gas tax increase in future years. So we're already starting to see it. It looks like right now. So that is really good news. Okay, let's see here. Motor vehicle registration. We're actually way ahead of where we thought. We thought we'd be at 60,000, but we're already at 82,000. So that's really good news. So our total revenue for the street fund, we were expecting to be around 565. We're already at 86% of the total revenue. So it's really great news for the street fund. And it's going to be good news for the next council and the next administration, because we're basically going to be turning over money to them. I'm going to pivot for just a second to the cash position report. So I'm going to look at this is a single page report. that just has all the fund balances on them. So if we look at the Fund 2 M&R, essentially there is, if we look at the unexpended balance of 103, there's, let's see here. Yeah, our unexpended balance, the cash balance in that fund is over $1 million. It's $1,039,922. So we do have outstanding encumbrances because there's a few street projects they're trying to get done at the end of the year here. So the ending balance $575,000. So, I mean, I expect that we're probably going to be turning over to the next administration, next council, like probably nearly $800,000. So that's really exciting stuff because they're going to have that plus all the money that they're going to get next year. So to kind of jumpstart. So no matter what happens when it comes to the mayor's race, this council and this, I guess, essentially this council with the work that we've done to take out all of the expenses out of the street fund, because we used to pay for road salt, we paid for street lights, we paid for public works employees that sometimes worked on streets, sometimes didn't. By moving all that stuff out of there, the next administration is going to have money to do a lot of street capital projects. And so,
Nice. That's good news.
they'll get all the credit, and that's okay. Nobody's looking for credit, but we'll at least know that we're setting them up for success.
We'll be there.
Yeah, well, we'll set them up. We're setting them up for success. So
What do you know about, speaking of the street fund, what do you know about section in Ross? I've seen the curbs being done there. Is that getting ready to get started? Do we know anything about that?
yeah, I have not. Of course, communication is lacking from.
Well, I know the section's been.
We have approved. We've approved a contract for it. So
I see the curbs. The curbs are on the corner there. They're doing a nice handicap curve, and to me, that's telling me that they're getting ready to.
Yeah, it would make
Kickstart that.
Yeah, it would make sense because part of the Section 70 project is rebuilding 3 storm drains. So,
Sure. Okay. I'll look forward to that.
yeah, and I don't know if it's going to actually capture more water, but they're going to be rebuilt so that they don't collapse one day, and then they'll repay.
I don't think there's a whole lot of problem there, but
There may not be on site. I know some streets
I
have
know
a lot of
that
water.
I'm aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
no, that's good news. Thank you for reporting that, Mr. Breen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somebody did say they saw no parking signs on Section, but
Yes.
I wasn't sure what that all was about. So that's good news. Okay. Awesome. So that's probably good for the revenue report. So are there any questions about any of the revenue items that we covered today?
No, I think you covered it. Basically, what you said at the beginning is we're showing 13.8 million, but some of that has to be paid out. Some of that's we don't actually have that much. That's the very beginning. You covered that. So
Yeah. Well, essentially the 13.8
earnings tax.
Yeah. So that one is that's total revenue. That's revenue into the city after we've already paid out Fund 89. So that 13.8 million is the total so far this year. And we're projected to have 16.9 million.
Oh, okay.
But because we're already we're at 82%. So because it's been 9 out of 12 months, we would want it. A lot of things we'd want somewhere around 75%. Sometimes things come in seasonally, but we're at 82% already. So
Okay.
there's a chance that earnings tax we might be more than projected, which would be a really good thing for the city.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Nice job.
Okay. So the next item I want to highlight, although I need to pull it up, is the expense report. So basically, I want to just talk about some of the items that.
Is that this?
Yes.
Is this the big thing
Yep,
here?
that's the big thing here. Yeah.
Okay.
Although I'm going to use my computer for mine because I can more easily move along. But basically, I want to go through the various capital. Well, I might just use this. I want to go through the capital expenditures that we've appropriated in the financial recovery plan and through our appropriations, and kind of see where we are when it comes to capital expenditures. So we'll know something's a capital expenditure because the last 4 digits of it is going to be 7,600. And you'll see at the bottom, so each of these are grouped in like 71, 72, 73. So look, each of them are grouped in different ones. So you'll want to look for the grouping for total 76. And 76 will just indicate, again, the capital items. So we'll kind of go through each, we'll go through each one of these real quick here, and I'll just kind of mention if there's something specific that kind of stands out. Okay, so I'm just looking at City Council, their personnel services, 7,100. They've got 25% remaining, so that's exactly where we'd want them. There's a contractual expense for city council, $10,500. Not sure. Forgot exactly why we put that in there, but it is still there. Okay. For clerk of council, they've got 30% remaining, so they're still. So essentially, if it's over 25% remaining, then we know that for most keys we're pretty good because we have about 25% remaining of this of the year. So just kind of keep that in mind. 25% or above is where we're aiming for.
Okay.
So clerk of council is looking good. Let's see here. Mayor's office for personnel services has 24% remaining, so that looks good there. So I'm on page 2. Going to page 3. We're gonna have to go quick because there's a bunch of pages on this, right?
Yeah. We're gonna try to get through this whole stack, man.
Well, no, I'm not gonna go through each.
All right.
Some of these are other random funds, so I won't go through all those.
I'm okay with it. I'm just asking.
Mayor's clerk of courts, they're at 24% for personnel, so they're doing good there.
Nice.
Law department, so right now we're at page 4. They're at 27% personnel. They still have unencumbered. They still have $26,000 unencumbered in their contractual services. So if something comes up there, they'll have the funds to take care of that. So I'm an auditor, page 5. They're looking good for personnel services. They're at 25% remaining. So treasurer's department, they've been understaffed for at least part of the year. So for their personnel services, they are still at 52% remaining. And then for earnings tax, for their personnel services, they've got 37% remaining. Civil Service Commission, page 7, halfway down, they've got 26% remaining. They're looking good. And they still have plenty of funds for testing. They have, I think there was a additional amount requested. They requested $29,000 because the thought was that they would have more tests to do, but I'm not sure why the expense is so low. There's only been $2,000 expended there. So.
Are you in earnings tax right now?
Oh, sorry, civil service now. So
Okay,
page 7, 3/4 the way down.
Thank you. I'm with you.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I'm moving quick. Okay, I'm gonna move.
I like
on
that.
Page 8. Safety Service Director's Office, 28%. So they're good on the personnel services. Page 9. Building Department, they're at 29%. There is on the Building Department an expense that Mark had to pay for some kind of a license or certificate or what have you. He paid it out of his own pocket, but we don't have the appropriations to pay him back at this point. So we're gonna, if we look at contractual services, the appropriate, let's see here.
Contractual expenses?
Contractual, so it'd be 7.
Oh, I got you. I'm with you. 72.
Yep.
I'm with you. Thank you.
Gotcha. So essentially, we'll be working on that with Mark if he hasn't already got that fixed.
Oh.
Okay, so now the bigger one. So the police administration key, they only have 20% remaining. I think part of that, though, is that Captain Bellman was here at the beginning of the year, and he's not here now, so I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to come out okay on that one.
Wow. That's 64.
Okay, so just police crime control. So that's this. We're on page 11, 3/4 of the way down. So they've got 30% remaining there. So that's looking good. I think we do pay out though I think we pay out uniform allowance towards the end of the year, and then also there's I think some different contract awards I think they've won that we'll be having to pay out as well. So there'll probably be some additional expenses there that won't make it look as good as it is now. And plus, we've also hired more people throughout this year, so it'll probably be expended a little bit faster than it was earlier in the year. Okay, next page, contractual services. So the contractual services for police departments always, there's a lot of stuff they have to buy just to run a department, so they're down to 8.17%. But that's not super unexpected because a lot of stuff, again, they would have purchased it earlier in the year. Materials and supplies, though, they still have 24% remaining in there. So we appropriated $69,000, and they still have unexpended $24,000 unexpended. But they have encumbered all of that money, so basically they said they know where they think it's all going to go. Auxiliary police, page 13. Personnel services, they're at 31% remaining, so they're looking good. Okay, so next we're at fire administration, personnel services, 32%. I'm not sure exactly how the chief and assistant chief are classified. Like, basically, I don't know if the assistant chief is, I think he's paid at the chief's salary at this point. I'm not sure. Is that correct? Oh, he's not. Okay, I didn't know if they took it temporarily until we found a new one, but either way, we've got 32% remaining, still looking good there. Okay, so we're at page 15 now, firemen, personnel services. We've got 15% remaining, which could be a concern. I'm sure April and Anna Mary are already on that, looking at that. So we had an appropriation of $7.1 million and year-to-date expense of $5.6 million. This is just for personnel services for fire. So yeah, we'll have to be kept an eye on, and I'm sure the city's going to have to likely find money for that, if that's possible. Overtime expenses for the year are $240,000 so far as of the first 9 months. Okay, so going to the contractual expenses for fire. This is page 16 at the end. They have 8.6% remaining, similar to police. And then their materials and supplies, they have 11.66% remaining. So overall, fire department, we appropriated $7.35 million for the fire. Expenses so far have been $5.78 million. So we've got 15% remaining overall for the department, but we still have 25% of the year left. So, but again, there could be expenses that are paid, like if there's uniform allowances or buybacks or what have you that were paid earlier, that could explain some of that. Okay, EMS contractual. Oh, excuse me. So the EMS, basically the EMS keys are just so that they have money set aside just to pay for medical supplies and stuff, so that it doesn't get kind of lost in the fire. Their contractual stuff is, they basically have 3% left for the contractual services and 18% left for materials and supplies. Okay, so looking at Superintendent of Public Works, page 17, they're at 28% left for personnel services, so they're looking good there. Okay, so street maintenance and repair department. So these are some of the employees that we were paying. This is page 18, about halfway down, a little bit less than halfway down, 7100 key personnel services. So this is, the personnel here are still some of the employees that were in the street fund. So basically we moved them from the street fund into the general fund so that we could make sure our street fund was just for street expenses. And our general fund then would hold these employees like most other cities how they hold, because, or when I say street fund, street expenses, street fund would just be for like capital expenses. So that's kind of why that's there. And so this department, I think, is new this year. We might have created it last year, but it's pretty much brand new because we never used to pay for street employees in the general fund before. But this council, we decided that, look, we want to make sure that the street fund is just for street capital improvements. So, and which is what I think our citizens were basically demanding of us. So we were really just doing as we were told by the citizens, essentially. So that's kind of why that's there, and that's why these streets things are there. So under the contractual services, I mean, we didn't put very much money in contractual services for streets. I'd say when the next council does the financial recovery plan again, they should probably add additional items for both materials and supplies and for contractual services, because there's just things that come up, you know, for streets, whether it be having a consultant that needs to like look at it, or like maybe look at the capital improvement plan or whatever for the streets, that it'd be good to have that in there. Let's see here. Expended. So they still have the materials and supplies for streets. There's still $103,000 that are unencumbered. $103,000 unencumbered. I'm not sure why they would have that much unencumbered, because, you know, there were people raising a fit earlier in the year that they didn't have enough money to buy the materials to fill the potholes, but the funds are there. So I'm definitely going to ask about that and find out what's going on there, and I'll report back to you on that.
You're talking about 8052, 130,000 in unencumbered.
No, actually, I'm talking about 70. Sorry. Oh yeah, 8052 7300 key.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, unencumbered. Yeah, 103. Yes, 103. Sorry, misheard you.
Okay.
Under the capital projects for that one, that's 7600 key. So this is one where we have capital projects and they actually got done. So we authorized a backhoe and they got the backhoe purchased. It was a little bit more than we thought, so we're $2,700 in the negative in that key out of the $85,000 that we originally appropriated. So they we'll fix that at the end of the year, basically. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment, that some of the stuff we're going to do there. Okay, just other highlights here. I'm going to kind of go through a little quicker here. Okay, so page 21, we'll talk about the community center. So this is 01, 08, 90, 7600. So page 21, it's about a third of the way down. So we've appropriated $53,500 for various items for the community center. Essentially, though, one of them was for the basketball court, and so we did get finally we got the purchase order done for the basketball court. That was approved. The contract's been signed, and they're looking at the end of November. The community center court's going to get replaced, so the city's going to pay for that. Yeah, and it's much needed. So I know that the rec department's working with the working with the company that's going to do it to try to get a better time frame. So it's not going to be in November. At the end of November, the kids are playing basketball, so it's going to be down for a week or down for a week and a half. So hopefully they'll be able to get it done sooner. But just know that that's coming. So
surprised they could do it in a week.
Well, however, it may take them longer. I mean, I don't know. I just know that it's going to be down for a bit. So, I mean, it's a $40,000 job. So, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. So just keep that in mind. That's coming. Okay. I'm down to page 22 now. 2/3 of the way down. This is our public lands and buildings key. So looking at just the 7600, it's the capital improvement items for that. So we basically, for public lands and buildings, there's $170,000 in appropriations for capital expenditures, like basically things that are needed at our public buildings or our public lands. We've spent $27,000 out of that, and we have no encumbrances. So there's $142,000 unencumbered. So, you know, I know that there's things that the mayor and the safety service director have complained about when it comes to just like, well, we don't have any money to fix this, fix that, what have you. But, you know, they do have $142,000 that we've appropriated for public lands and buildings to get stuff done. So just keep that in mind there, that's there. And I think we put like a significant amount each year just for like city hall items that come up. It was like $70,000 or something. So that's there. So they have it if they're wanting to use it for whatever they need to use it for. Okay, next one, parks and playgrounds. This is another one where we weren't spending very much money out of the general fund because some of these people were being paid out of either the water fund or the street fund. So it's back into the general fund. We've got $226,000 for personnel. We've got 25% left, so we're looking good there. If we go down to the bottom of page 23, this is for the capital improvements for parks and playgrounds. It's 01, 09, 12, 7600. We appropriated $174,000 for parks and playgrounds capital improvements. These are like basically what we intended to appropriate it for was they were going to redo the light system at the Waterworks baseball field, so they were all going to get new lights on basically all three fields, and there was going to be a new master electric box. But I mean, that project doesn't look like they're doing it because the project hasn't gotten done. So we spent $10,234 so far in parks and playgrounds, and which means that we have $163,000 left. That this council said we want to go to parks and playgrounds, and essentially it's there. So I don't know. I think we all know that there's parks that could be improved in all of the wards around the city, and so it's a little bit perplexing that this council has appropriated the money and made sure that they have the money, because we're constantly told that we are not administration. We're constantly told that we're just here to appropriate money, and then they're here to run the city. But we've appropriated the money, we've done our job. So just want to make sure citizens know that this council, we funded parks and playgrounds, $174,000 in capital improvement for parks and playgrounds, and there's still $163,000 left. That's 94% remaining. So, essentially we're told to keep our mouth shut and sit down, but we've done our job when it comes to funding that. So just kind of keep that in mind and always hold your head up on that kind of stuff, because
at this point, what do we do to get stuff? How do we go about it?
It's a good question. I talked to the mayor about it today, and the mayor basically said that they don't really want to do a lot of big projects or anything, because he sees it as like it's the end of his term, essentially. So, however, the problem is that, this is money that was available now to spend on that, because we could be much more obligated to spend it elsewhere in future years. So it's just unfortunate that we didn't get that spent like this council kind of intended. And whether it would have went to lights at Waterworks Park, which are needed, or if it would have went to new playground equipment at Burwood Park or new playground equipment at Hunter or Fenwick, it's money that could have been used for that. So it's just kind of frustrating on my front, which is why I'm bringing it up here to make sure you all know about it. So we can't force them to spend anything. I mean, that's the thing. So it's their decision. It's 100% their decision if they want to spend the money. There's 2 items in the Ohio Revised Code that I think that we could do ourselves if we really had to, but it's just very limited. And that's partly also because we're a statutory city as well. So, we can't make the elected official of the mayor do anything, as I'm reminded by our law director many times. So, and that's a very good comment, is what I'm saying. So, he keeps me grounded. Okay, we'll keep moving here. So, dispatch services, we're at 27% remaining for personnel service, for dispatch. So we're looking good there. Health department's looking good when it comes to personnel services. Okay, so we also so this is on page 26, 1/3 of the way down. In our 7600 key, we appropriated $25,000 because the health department needed a new vehicle, and so they were going to get a flex vehicle so that they could share it among the staff that worked there. But that vehicle also was never ordered. So that's $25,000 that we had so that they could have an updated vehicle because they need it. Some of them don't. Some of them just use their own car and eat the cost of it because they don't want to use the city vehicle. So $25,000 for a vehicle, $25,000 unencumbered. Essentially $25,000 still sitting there. So, but the money's there. The funds were there. We appropriated. We did our job. Let's see here. Keep going here. 27. Since we're low on time, I'll try to go a little faster. Okay, so page 28. 01, 1050, 7600. This is like recreation, capital expenditures. We appropriated 60,000. They've used 12,000 or 13,000 of it. They've got an encumbrance for 6,000. So essentially, there's $40,000 of the $60,000 remaining that was not used. I have sent a letter to Mr. Gears and/or emails and voicemails, essentially trying to find out what their plans are for the rest of these capital expenditures. So it's no response really as of yet. Okay. Retiree benefit program. So that's the new retirees program that we have. So remember previously, before we created the new program, when we took over, this council took over, 525. So previously we were spending like around $900,000 a year for the retirees healthcare program. We've eliminated that program and created the retiree benefit program, where we just pay them a cash payment instead of having to do all these healthcare things. So essentially, our year-to-date expenses there were $490,000. I don't think we're expecting to spend any more. So if we do spend more, I'll let you all know. But it looks like we're coming in right at $500,000, which that's a $400,000 savings, thanks to the actions that this current council took. So just want to say that that's great job on that part, because that was some really contentious times when we first took over 2 years ago, if you all remember. So
how can I forget?
Yeah, it's seared into my memory. I can promise you that. I'm sure it's seared into Donna's memory as well.
There are three checks that were just cut, waiting in the treasurer's office for signatures. So there may be 10,000 more.
Okay.
And that's
so yeah, and that's
finished for the year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Madam President Lake. So that makes it right at $500,000. So it's just $400,000 in savings that we're saving from that. So I mean that's incredible.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it's going to go down every year just due to the nature of it being capped. There's no expenses, and so essentially, as long as people are alive, we pay it. But then if they're not alive, then we don't. So and the amount that we pay each year will never go up. So we've capped that. So
2 people have passed away this year.
okay, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very unfortunate. Okay, and then the C9 Trust, just finishing up. This is page 29, right at the top. Just last items from that as we close it out. I mean, essentially, it looks like we've had $86,000 in expenses and another $19,000 in encumbrances. And then let's see if I missed one. Okay, and then retirees healthcare. Sorry, it's on page 28, right before. We had $93,000 in expenses there. So we had a little bit of expenses because of the double year, because we were still paying stuff from last year, and then we also were paying the new program as well. But next year we won't have those expenses. Okay. Let's see here. Just continuing forward. Okay. I think that is. Let me just finish going through here. Okay. So I think that's good for now. So hopefully you all have kind of an idea of the budget, of kind of where we're at. I mean, most keys are doing pretty well. I know that April and Anna Mary are already looking at the fire keys. So, and at the end of the year, we'll be readjusting appropriations with the financial supervisor's approval. We can't do it without their approval because we have to follow the plan. But they can kind of deviate. They've gotten permission from the Fiscal Recovery Commission to allow us to deviate from the plan if it's in the best interest of the city. So they've allowed us to do that sometimes, and they'll probably allow us to do that at the end of the year. Okay, so the items that Mr. Stith had for us, excuse me, I'm going to pull them up now. So just in upcoming meetings, we're going to have to pass the permanent appropriations for 2020. So the appropriations for 2020, they're going to match the current fiscal emergency plan. In the fiscal emergency plan, it does state that we had to get budgets from every department, and those budgets for most departments have been turned in to the financial supervisors and to Jim Stith. As soon as I get a copy of most of them, I'll forward them on to you all just so you have them in your inbox. But just know that the plan the beginning appropriations has to match the plan. So when we pass appropriations, it's going to match the plan. However, we're going to have a new mayor next year. So no matter who that may be, they're going to have priorities for the city, and potentially they'll be helping to negotiate some union contracts. So that plan's going to change early on next year to reflect their priorities. So I expect those appropriations not to be there that long, but we still have to pass them anyways. We're going to have to change it, like I said, appropriations for 2019. So we have the auditor says that we have to do this every year for funds with property tax revenue once all the taxes are collected. We'll have another finance committee meeting sometime in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks to have the auditor here to talk about some of those items more, but just know that those are coming. So are there any questions about that, about appropriations for 2020 or 2019?
I don't have any questions. It's just all good news.
Yeah.
For the most part, that the work of this council and the fiscally responsible way that we're governing, it's showing. So, nice work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was gonna say all 7 council members deserve credit because we passed that financial recovery plan 7-0.
Very exciting.
So it's I mean, in my opinion, that we're on a good path for the future, but again, there's a lot of uncertainties with union contracts. So, I mean, the city is one basically court case away from essentially having to throw out the capital improvement plan and, hire a bunch of police and firefighters. So, we'll see where that goes, and that's a major thing because right now we're probably, for police, we're probably a little bit above average, but we're probably we're at 42, I think, for police. We've authorized 45. So as soon as the police get done with their testing and hiring and stuff, hopefully we'll have 3 more police officers. But for fire, though, we have more firefighters than most other cities our size, or pretty much any other city our size that I could find. And so, right now, I think what we put in the plan, 45 firefighters, plus the chief, I think that's what we can afford, to me. And I think it's I personally believe it's what we need if you look at what other cities are doing. There's people that will bring all these studies out there that'll show that, oh, look, the NFPA have done, or IAFF have done all these different studies to show you need this many firefighters, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. Trust me, I would love if they had 50 firefighters, at any one time at the firehouse. But, it's just for almost any city, and our fire consultant said that, it's just not feasible. And so if we're going to take care of our streets, if we're going to take care of our parks, if we're going to make sure the city has the staff that they need to actually run properly, we've got to make sure that the funds are there. And right now, it's actually a good time for the city. I mean, imagine if Siemens decides that they're going to leave, and that Siemens place, that's going to be a very hard place to fill if they left. Imagine if another big employer decided they were going to leave, and then instead of having a little bit extra money that we can use for parks, we're sitting here trying to figure out what we're going to cut. Is the next one going to be the health department? Is it going to be the rec center is going to get clipped? What's the next thing to cut? Because we don't really have control over our police and fire spending due to the contract. So, watching the last fiscal recovery meeting, it sounded like that the mayor, police, and fire, they're all committed to working together to try to come to an agreement that may not match the current financial recovery plan, but still gets us closer to it so that we can all get this settled and get moved forward. Talking to the mayor today, he didn't really have an outlook either way, whether he thought it was going to happen or not. He said they're just working on it. So we'll kind of see where it goes, but I think this current council, I think we can just be very proud of the fact that we have said, and we put our foot down and we've said that we're not spending more than we can afford. And no other city in Ohio has some of the stuff in our contracts, the mandated requirements that ours have. There's just very few others that have anything like ours, and especially not as spelled out as ours is. And so I think that's credit to the incredible work that the fire and police unions have done over the years when it comes to negotiating. And frankly, it's a testament to, in my opinion, elected leaders that signed off on some of these things maybe without understanding the full consequences of it. So, but either way, we're trying to fix it, doing the best we can in our time. So, are there any other questions that we have before we end?
No, thank you.
Okay, cool, awesome. So the capital improvement plan is something we're still working on. We should be able to look more at it at our next meeting. I'm hoping that it'll be the Tuesday, in 2 weeks from today, so before the council meeting, probably at 6:30 again. So, cool. We will see you then. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.